What if experience reversed itself, and instead of moving away from anything, you're finding yourself moving toward? Instead of withdrawing from experience, you find yourself being absorbed directly into experience, moment to moment. What if instead of second guessing yourself, there's a sense of all rightness that is intrinsic to all of your experiences? What if instead of using the mind as a tool to escape from this moment by fantasizing, by arguing with what is, by judging what's happening, and instead the mind is calm and quiet, and there's a sense of presence, there's a sense of peace, there's a sense of right here-ness that is imperturbable? What if instead of feeling apart from your environment, apart from the people around you, apart from what's right in front of your face in such a way that you have to try to mitigate the sense of aloneness or mitigate the sense of separateness or apartness, what if instead of that, there's a feeling of intimacy already, or there's a feeling of belonging already, or there's a feeling that nothing needs to be corrected or fixed because the connection is already here? What if instead of trying to find your way back home, you find that home is everywhere you move? Home is already here, is already the case. Is this possible? Is it possible to live this way? Well, it turns out it's far easier than you probably realize, or at least far easier than most people realize. In fact, it's so close that it's almost insane that we miss it. It's so available that it's almost ludicrous that we search for it. The availability of complete immersion, the availability of finding home with every step, with every sound, with every breath, is always the case. It's always available. I can't tell you whether it's a choice or not a choice, but it feels like both in a way. It feels choiceless in the sense that it is just this way. It also feels like a choice in that the acknowledgement is simple. We can simply acknowledge that only through some kind of believing in a thoughtscape, believing in some inner world that seems to portray this time-bound world of problems and solutions and later and seeking, we can acknowledge in a second that that doesn't actually exist. It only apparently exists. But what actually exists, or what is actually here, is so simple. It's so immediate. It's so available. You can't miss it. You've never missed it. You've never been apart from it. So this isn't to say that spiritual practice or spiritual seeking or spiritual orientation is wrong or misplaced. It's not. It's just also part of this. Everything is an entry point into what I'm pointing to here, and that is any question, any inquiry question, if it comes from a place of deep attunement to truth, can completely die into itself right here. Just as this, because this is all there is. There's no where to go from here. There's nowhere to arrive to. It's not nowhere, but it's also not somewhere else. And words, these words I'm using, and words I use when I'm talking about this in different ways, I'm always sort of talking about the same thing. Words can be confusing if we interpret them as pointing to something that's going to happen later. But the words can be helpful if they're felt into, and something resonates as, oh, just this. Meaning, even if it feels like tension, even if it feels like confusion, even if it feels like emotion of some kind, even if it feels like the mind is moving and there's thoughts and so forth, it's just this, that this is it. There's no need to arrive here. There's no one that's not here. There's no one. That's the funny thing about the sense of self. It feels so real, but really the more you look at it, the closer you look, the more you realize it's actually not there. So it's only felt to be real by being not in time. It's only felt to be real by being out of phase with what's actually occurring. When it's clear what is occurring is the only possibility, then the self is a non-issue. It's not, you're not going to find it. You're not going to find one, but also there's no need to dispel self. There's no need to even talk about it. There's no intermediary. There's no separation from anything. So there's no gap. So there's no boundary. There's just this inflow, outflow, intimacy, dying into, integration and disintegration, merged with one another. And it's just saying here, 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 only here, only here, only ever here, home, home, only ever home. And those pointers, those statements, here, 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 and home, also are nothing to grasp onto because there's nothing that needs to grasp onto anything. So there's also this clear endless fluxing. Clear. It's clean, and it's fluxing, changing, dissolving, reforming, we could say. But that happens so seamlessly and continuously that nothing ever forms and nothing ever dissolves. So there's nothing coming and there's nothing going. There's nothing being born and there's nothing dying. There's nothing to find. There's no one to find it. And if something feels like it's trying to find, or if something feels like it's trying to correct the course or understand or clarify or dissolve or die or be reborn, that's okay too. That's just it, right? All of that is this as well. So all of that said, the way I started this video was to say, is it possible that instead of moving away from, there's a moving toward? And in the end, that's all it really is. It's instead of backing away from experience, it's just being already merged with experience so thoroughly that there's no thought of backing away. There's no thought of being apart from, separate from, having to correct course, find anything. So it gets so simple that it seems almost absurd to go on this journey, this whole journey, to find oneself home and to realize they've gone on that journey, gone out on the, let's call it the hero's journey, and return back home. To even talk about what that means, it's almost absurd. Not quite absurd, but it's almost absurd because you also never left home. Even being on the road, you've never left home. But also not leaving home, you can also be on the road. So there's freedom in every dimension of reality. And that's a very poignant aspect of this as well, is the freedom. Even the suffering and the strain and the resistance, that's all the freedom too. But with that kind of strain and that kind of resistance, there can be this very thin illusion that we call the self that feels like all that's happening to it. Then it doesn't feel so enjoyable. It doesn't feel so free. But even that is free. That is leading itself back to freedom spontaneously all the time. When this is seen, then suffering is also free. There's suffering without anyone doing the suffering, or without any victim of suffering. There's just suffering. There's sensation without anyone experiencing it or sensing it. There's just sensation. There's flow without anyone benefiting from it. It's just the flow. There's stillness without anyone noticing it. There's just stillness. And that penetration is thorough. There's no sliver of apart from awareness of, consciousness of, even the reflection itself is the appearance. The reflection itself is the vividness. So nothing is reflecting. There's no distance. There's nothing being reflected. There's just reflection. There's just sound. There's just sensation. And these are endlessly interesting in some way. It's a simple fascination with being alive, with sensing, with appearances.